Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another live stream. How is everybody's day going? How is everybody's week going? Welcome back. Hello, hello. It is good to see everybody again. Glad to get another live stream in. Good morning or good day from wherever you're from. Hope everybody's week is going well. Got ourselves a non-farm payroll week. If you don't mind, just give me a thumbs up in chat to make sure that everything is working correctly. Make sure that the screen is on NQ. You should be looking at the 5-minute chart on NQ, and you should be able to hear me clearly as well. I hope everybody's week is going well. Like all of the screens are working. Looks like the audio is working. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the help. Good morning, good day. Hello. Very excited to get on here and spend some more time with you guys. Last week was my first time out of the office. Very exciting news. I am getting married in 1 month. So I had my bachelor party in Austin, Texas. A very good time. I'm a little sunburnt, so that is a good thing, but makes me a little sore. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good day. Love to see all the familiar faces in here. We have non-farm payroll this week. Pull up the economic calendar real quick so everybody can see it. So today is loaded with some news here. We have PMI coming up here at 9:45, jobs at 10, FOMC at 2. Huge news today. The non-farm payroll down here. So for any of the individuals that have not put the time into studying ICT, a lot of us here focus on the ICT concepts. For the individuals that have not completed that information, non-farm payroll is one of the most volatile news events there is. Therefore, a lot of individuals choose to not participate in it because thinking about being a risk manager, if you're thinking in terms of being a risk manager, this would be the worst time to get it wrong. Understand what I'm saying here? I'm not thinking in terms of gambling, right? I'm not thinking about the reward. I'm not saying, how much money can I make from this? What I'm thinking is, this is the worst time to get it wrong. So the mindset needs to be on risk and not reward. That will keep you from falling into the euphoria, the gambling mindset. Thank you to everybody that's saying congrats. Definitely looking forward to the wedding. It was a great bachelor party. It was a nice way to reset and recharge. Good morning, Brian. I hope your week is going well. Thank you as well for the congratulations. Take a look at what we have here today. I am going to keep speaking about non-farm payroll. There are different protocols to engage with price during this time. So depending on your independent thinking, you would already know whether you're participating or not today. Nonetheless, we can still go in and look at some of these charts here. I'm going to look at ES. Do have news coming up here at 9:45, so be aware of that. So in terms of creating a bias, first thing that my eyes go to is I have an FVG here in which price respected the bearish FVG and then delivered to the external location, so the swing low. We have two swing lows here. So in my opinion, it looks like we are on the sell side of the curve. It looks like we are reaching for the swing low. Bearish fair value gap was respected, displaced away from, moving to what it's reaching for. Yes, the wifey definitely knows about the unicorns. Every time we have a horse farm across the street, every time we go and see the horses, she refers to them as unicorns now. So I feel like I did my job. Book a cruise. I don't know. I've never been on a cruise, actually. I do live by the ocean, so I enjoy the water, but I don't know if I want to be stranded on the water. So this is what I'm looking at in terms of a bias at the moment. Then, right, in terms of time frame alignment, you move from the daily to get your bias. You go to the hourly to get your market structure, right? So in terms of market structure, the first thing that I'm looking at is this low resistance liquidity here. What do you want to see on your side of the curve? High resistance liquidity. What do you want to see on the opposite side of the curve? Low resistance liquidity. You want to see low resistance liquidity on the other side of the curve because it gives price something to reach for. What do we want to see on our side of the curve? High resistance liquidity, right? So in my opinion, I would like to see this here. Go and run out the high, create some high resistance liquidity, maybe reach into the fair value gap to continue the sell side of the curve, reaching for the low resistance liquidity down here. Right, and so I'm pointing this out because this is my process for all of the individuals that have been working with me, whether it's over YouTube, whether it's on Twitter, or whether it's in Discord. The same process, and that is what we need to fall in love with. We need to fall in love with doing the same thing a million times over. That is how you build the muscle memory. I'm always obtaining the economic calendar to understand the important times of the day. Then from the economic calendar, I move to the daily chart On the daily chart, I'm looking to understand where price is currently located. From the daily chart, that is my bias. I then move to the hourly chart. On the hourly chart, I'm looking at the market structure. I'm looking for high resistance liquidity and low resistance liquidity. I'm looking for any changes in the state of delivery. Right, so at the current moment, there is no bullish change in the state of delivery. Another reason why I'm looking for a sweep of the highs, possibly into an area of inefficiency or continuation. Right, something like this. I'm gonna move over to, or I could just put it right alongside real quick. Go ahead and throw NASDAQ up here too, because the other thing that I would look at this high is to see if there's SMT or not. Neither one have swept it so far, so that concept is not present at the moment. It is something that I would look at if it happens. We do have news coming up here, so we might see a volatility injection coming up here in 1 minute. So let me get back down to the 5 minute to see what we have. Let's watch the news event, and then we'll continue to go into analysis. So bias for me is bearish right now. It was because of the way that price reacted to the bearish FVG on the daily for ES. Including Dixie analysis. It is not something to live or die by. It is just a confluence. Dixie is inversely correlated to the indices. When that correlation is present, there's higher probability. But there are times when that correlation is not present. So that is why it's a confluence. I do not need it to trade my bias, is what I'm trying to say. The PDF that I wrote up on the unicorn is present in multiple locations. That's in the Discord and on Twitter. If by chance the link has expired, just reach out to me and I will send the copy over. But the last time I tried it, it worked fine. We will have more news coming up here at 10 a.m. Something to keep in mind. For any of the individuals that know me and have been working with me, they would already know that I'm not participating. I do not trade from Wednesday to Friday of non-farm payroll week. With that being said, you can throw any questions or comments in chat. I'll gladly review any information today as we are watching price. Pretty lethargic news driver there. They're probably waiting for the 10 a.m. or most likely FOMC. We got an FOMC statement and a press conference. I would not be too eager for any of the individuals that are participating, would not be too eager to jump into price. We got ES on the left. We'll put NQ on the right. What is my win rate? You can go into the Discord and find the Notion in which I track all of my trades. It's found there. When you are determining bias and you are using internal liquidity and external liquidity, do you only use the daily time frame? Yes. I use the daily time frame to obtain my bias. I asked, do you still consider shorting above midnight open and longing below midnight open? That is a confluence. It is something that creates probabilities. That is not a standalone trigger. That is not a confirmation. It is not something to live or die by. It is only a confluence. Okay, so it is higher probability when longing below midnight. It is higher probability when shorting above midnight. There has been times where I've longed above midnight. There have been times where I shorted below midnight. That is not a part of my criteria to enter the market. It is only a confluence. Hour one market maker sell model. Is this the second leg of distribution? That is how I'm viewing price right now as well. Right. I'm going to put the hourly on the left here. And yes, looking for these as targets, all this low resistance liquidity here. So it does look like a market maker sell model with the lows being, with the lows being the final target. Low resistance liquidity. And this would be the final target down here. Did London sweep Asia's high and low? Here you go right here. Show you. Sorry, let me just zoom in here. Asia high is right here. It was swept before London opened. London high is here. So the red line is London high. Red line is London low. The blue line is Asia low. And you can't really see it, but the other blue line is right here. So no, London did not sweep Asia high and low. What do I use the 1 hour time frame for? I use it for market structure. I use it to obtain change in the state of delivery. I use it to obtain low resistance liquidity or high resistance liquidity. Do I use weekly profiles? Yes, I do use weekly and daily profiles. That again is only confluence. It is not a criteria to enter the market. It is not a confirmation. It is only confluence. It's supporting evidence to your idea. Yes, we could absolutely do another backtesting stream. The link to the Discord does still work. So for anybody that's wondering, if you go to the description of this video, the link to the Discord is shown there. Whole lot of nothing happening so far this morning. I mean, look at this chop since the opening time. They're just waiting for FOMC. They're building liquidity for the high impact news drivers. In my opinion, there's nothing to do here. I don't want to be, in this, if it's not clear and decisive, if you can't definitively define your information, that is when you know not to do anything. There's nothing clear here. We're just chopping away in a very small. Nothing to do there. Just be patient. Even on the 5-minute, right? You do get a breaker here. Sweeps the swing high. Then closes below the breaker block. But there's no FVG aligned with it. So I'm not interested in that. You can look at this as a breaker, but just understand that the FVG is not aligned with it. So there is a difference between a unicorn and a breaker. Right? A unicorn is a breaker with an FVG aligned with it. You have low resistance liquidity here for it to reach for. Put ES back up here as well. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Try that again. ES has the same setup here. Right, so I'd be looking for lower prices down to the lows here. Look for it to reach for the low resistance liquidity. You have the news driver coming up here, so that could deliver it. You have the low resistance liquidity here on ES as well. Deliver from the breaker block to the low resistance liquidity here. All 3 candles of the FVG being aligned with the breaker block do not have to be inside the breaker block. Only a portion of the FVG needs to be in the breaker block. If you use the search function in the Discord, type in Notion, the link to the Notion should pull up. Hey Ash, hope you're doing well. As a beginner, where would you recommend I start? Is your unicorn model playlist enough to get started, or should I start elsewhere? I started with ICT. I started with the mentorship. If you go to my Discord and use the search function, I wrote out a list of must-watch playlists. There's 4 different playlists there. Those are the ones that I would recommend. How do I decide whether I use the 1 hour to 5 minute alignment or 15 minute to 1 minute alignment? That question is answered by the individual and your understanding of your emotional intelligence, psychological intelligence. If the 1 minute is moving too fast and it's inducing too many emotions where you are executing in ways that you know you shouldn't be executing, then I would use the higher time frame alignment, right? Because you have less time to make decisions. It is more noisy because price is moving quicker. It's going up and down faster. So if those factors deter you from what you need to be doing, then I would go with the 1 hour to 5 minute alignment. That depends on the individual and their emotional intelligence. I count the swing low as the breaker block. If you go into the resources section of the Discord, you will see the link to the ICT video that defines breaker blocks. For a bearish breaker, it's the lowest down close candle before the leg up that took liquidity. Same thing that goes for the bullish breaker. It's the highest up close candle before the leg down that took liquidity. And so there's your delivery there. Notice how the news driver gave you your entry to the breaker block and then ran to its target. So if you took it from the breaker block to the low resistance liquidity, you'd be taking your profits at this point. Right? And once the objective is completed, I would no longer consider it. So now that the idea has completed itself, taking this off the screen and you go back to analyzing. I do not attempt to use the same idea multiple times. Once the objective has been completed, you go back to analyzing. You move to the sideline and wait for more defined data. The must-watch videos, if you go to the search function in the Discord, are shown there. I'm sorry. I said that incorrectly. It's in the pinned messages. Sorry for the confusion. Go to the pinned messages in the Discord, and you'll see the list of must-watch videos. Sorry for the confusion. It's in the pinned messages. Let's see, did anybody take advantage of the short idea that was presented? Put a 1 in the chat if you shorted from the breaker block down to the low resistance liquidity. Put a 2 in the chat if you are only spectating today. You guys already know my answer. I said it before and I'll continue to say it. I do not participate from Wednesday to Friday of non-farm payroll week. Which gives us a phenomenal opportunity to learn. All right, I'll link the notion after this video then. I am going to focus on the stream for now and point it out after this for you though. Yeah, for the individual that's saying this is not a unicorn, I also stated this was not a unicorn. Hence why I stated there was no FVG aligned with it. For the individuals that didn't get to exit their position the first time, you're getting a second opportunity to take your profits now. So I will point it out again because it looks like there are questions. You have breaker block here. Okay, so price runs above this high. This is a stop hunt. Once price runs above the swing high, stop hunt. Therefore, you need the lowest down close candle before the leg up that took liquidity. Right, so this right here becomes a breaker once this candle closes below it. And again, as I stated the first time, this is only a breaker block. It is not a unicorn. Same thing goes for NQ. Price runs above the swing high. Then you annotate the lowest down close candle before the leg up that took liquidity. Same exact thing as ES. This is only a breaker block. It is not a unicorn. Right? And now for the individuals asking about a stop loss, right? You don't put the stop loss right on the other side of the breaker block. You always give it a couple points, right? So you want to use this FVG as well. That would be a smart idea. And we were looking at the low resistance liquidity here. Same thing goes for NQ. Right? If you're looking at this here. So NQ delivered the 2R. ES only delivered about 1R. Either way, this is nothing I would consider again since it's already been used. I'm just reviewing the trade that was called out. Yeah, so I'm not going to keep repeating myself. I already stated there was no FVG inside the breaker block. I already said that I would not be taking this trade. It's not a unicorn. It's NFP week. I stated that I don't trade NFP week. It's a learning opportunity. That's all it is. But now that it's been used, now that it delivered, we go back to the drawing board and go back to spectating. The entire position was walked through, right? Why would we be looking for shorts? Because of the daily bias, right? For the people that were not here during the beginning of the live stream, pointed to a bearish bias because of this bearish FEG here, right? Internal liquidity to external liquidity, right? So you'd look for it to move to the swing low. Go back to the beginning of the video and watch the recording. Then you move to your hourly chart and you're looking for high resistance liquidity and low resistance liquidity. You can see all of the low resistance liquidity here, right? Price has something to reach for. All of these failure swings. So looking for downside makes sense. Then during the opening times, you go into price looking for your entry function, right? Our entry function is a breaker block plus an FEG. Makes complete sense to look for shorts here. You even have the low resistance liquidity here on the smaller time frame as well. Price has something to reach for lower. Breaker block is clear. It's right after the highs was swept. You used the lowest down close candles before the leg up that took liquidity. All right, so after the closure, confirming the breaker block, you have multiple opportunities here. 1, 2, 3. Same thing here on NQ. Short from the breaker, aim at the lows. Very simple. Pointed it all out. No, I do not trade from Wednesday to Friday of NFP week. For any of the individuals that are wondering why they can't communicate in chat, because you haven't subbed to the channel. So sub to the channel, like the video. That way you can communicate with us in the discussion. So the next news event will be at 2 o'clock. I wouldn't be surprised at some lethargic price until then. FOMC statements are high impact news drivers. So for them to wait and anticipate for it would make sense. Feel free to put any questions or comments in chat. Gladly answer any questions or go over any information. For any of the individuals asking the questions in the Discord, I would ask if you can bring them to YouTube. I'm not focusing on the Discord at this moment. Do the market makers already know the FOMC information? I have no clue. I am not a market maker. I do not hang out with market makers. Not sure where you would even get that information. Do I trade CL or GC much? I've traded oil a couple times. I don't trade it that much. I focus on ES and NQ mainly. Can I give an example of when the FEGs are inside or not inside? So here's your example of the FEG not being inside the breaker block, right? The breaker block is right here. I've highlighted the breaker block. Notice how the FEG is up here. It is not aligned with the breaker block at all. It's not touching the breaker block at all. Okay. There's your example of it not being aligned with the breaker block. And now let me go to an example of it being aligned. This is the trade that I took on Monday. So stop hunt when price ran below the swing low. You need the highest up closed candle before the leg down that took liquidity. Notice how the FVG is aligned with the breaker block. So after the candle that displaces through the breaker block confirms the breaker block by closing through it, this is a valid entry. So any of these entries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are all longs. These are all longs. So you just got an example of the FEG not being aligned with the breaker block, and then here's an example of it being aligned with the breaker block. What was I doing before I got into trading? I was in college. I was focusing on getting my degree. Do I trade London? I'm on East Coast time, so I'm on New York time. Therefore, I don't trade London because that is normally when I'm sleeping. How often do I trade ES and NQ? I watch the markets every single day, but per my risk management, I only take 1 trade a day maximum and 2 trades a week maximum. You have helped my trading immensely since I came back to your model. Sitting and waiting has been my issue. Unicorn rules are perfect for me. Thank you for teaching patience. I appreciate the kind words, JL. Patience is a virtue. We are students of the market forever. So whether it is an issue now, that does not mean it's always going to be an issue. You just have to gain more experience. With more experience comes conviction. The more time you spend with price, the more familiar you will be with it. So give yourself time. Why isn't ICT the richest person in the world? You're going to have to ask ICT that question. I have no clue. 2 trades a week. Are those intraday? Yes, I am only a day trader. I use the 5-minute chart or the 1-minute chart. I'm only trading during New York Open. I'm a New York AM trader. I use ES and NQ. I'm normally in a position anywhere from a couple minutes to maybe an hour or two. Position always occurs within the session, and I always close it within the session. The liquidity sweep, if there was no higher time frame sweep, only a lower time frame sweep, is it still a valid trade? You need to be an independent thinker and determine whether you're going to use higher time frame points of interest. I personally highly suggest basing all of your ideas off of a higher time frame point of interest. Bullish FEGs and swing lows, look for longs. Bearish FEGs and swing highs, look for shorts. Position size is 1% or less per trade, aiming at 1 to 2 RR. I wouldn't be surprised by lethargic price. They most likely are going to wait for FOMC now. Nothing has changed in my opinion. Still seeking lower prices. Still working off the breaker block. Right. Still looking for these lows here. All this low resistance liquidity here. Looks like NQ is the weaker pair as it already ran out one of the lows. Has more to reach for here. Still looking for lower prices. I already explained the bearish bias from the daily. Yes, the unicorn model works in the other markets. It works in commodities. It works in crypto. It works in Forex. Can you give an example of a bearish bias and a bullish one, please? Not sure if you just missed the comment I made, but a bearish bias is when price is currently located above a swing high or in a bearish FVG. A bullish bias is when price is currently located below a swing low or in a bullish FVG. Really like your discipline with only 2 trades a week. If you don't have discipline in this market, you will be one of the people that blow up accounts. Furthermore, your health and your day-to-day life is more important. Why would you want to be stuck to the screen every single day? That doesn't sound like freedom. I would rather get in here, take care of business, and then go work on my health. Go work on other businesses. Go be with family. Do I consider inversions? I don't use inversions. No, I would not use this as a breaker block. Why would you not use this as a breaker block right here? Does anybody know? Before I give the answer. Why would this right here not be a breaker block? Why would that top one not be a breaker block? You need to understand swing points has nothing to do with the size of the candle. It has everything to do with swing point. You have to have a high. You have to have a low. The initial high needs to be swept, and then you need to have a new low. Each one of these points needs to be an institutional swing point. So a swing high, a swing low, a swing high. Okay? There is no swing high in here. It just keeps going higher, right? So let's take all the stuff off and zoom in. A swing high has lower highs on each side of it. So look at this right here. This is a swing high because the candles on each side of it have a lower high. That does not happen in any one of these candles. There is no swing point here. High, higher high, equal high, higher high, higher high. There is no institutional swing point there. That cannot be a breaker block. You must have a high, a low, a new high, a new low. That's what a short looks like. This is what a long looks like. A low, a high, a new low, then a new high. Go watch ICT core content breaker blocks, or go watch ICT institutional swing points. If anybody else has any questions or comments, feel free to put it in the chat. No, I'm not watching his live streams anymore. have the information I need. I have nothing else that I need to change. His commentary is not exactly my type of entertainment. All I need to do is focus on my own business and continue to keep executing. This is something that needs to be said for a lot of people here. Stop trying to change your strategy. Stop trying to use the newest, shiniest object. It is only deterring you from getting the results that you're actually looking for. You will never get a defined system if you're constantly always changing it. You'll never have defined results. You'll never know if it actually works. I'd rather practice one execution a million times than practicing a million different types of executions one time. Yes, when you're at a higher time frame point of interest, you still need your lower time frame stop hunt. For example, that's what happened this morning, right? Let me point out a bearish FVG, right? An hourly higher time frame point of interest. Now you go in during the market time, right? During the opening time. So New York Open is 9:30, and that's right here, right? At 9:30, at the higher time frame point of interest, we get a stop hunt. You see? See how the higher time frame point of interest is engaged? When it's engaged, there is a lower time frame stop hunt. Do we get live one-on-one sessions in the premium? You go to the WAP page, you can book a one-on-one. We do have options for one-on-ones. It is shown on the WAP page. It is an hour-long meeting with me. Tried learning from ICT, but I learned more from you. You put things in a way I understand more than ICT. Yeah, ICT is a bit cryptic. He's a bit information overload. He goes on rants all the time. Get rid of all that fluff and just looked at defined information. It's not as complicated as everybody wants to make it. Less is more, quality over quantity. Focus on one or two things that you can identify and just do that over and over again. There's no reason to make it any more complicated than that. A stop hunt and a breaker block are two different concepts. A stop hunt is when price runs above a swing high or a swing low. Right, so here's your stop hunt right here. So that's the swing high that I'm pointing out. And when price runs above the swing high, right, all this right here is the stop hunt. Then after the stop hunt occurs, you can then point out the breaker block because it's the lowest down close candles before the leg up that took liquidity, right? It took liquidity because it ran above a swing high. It took liquidity because it went into an hourly bearish fair value gap. After that happens, you need displacement through the breaker block. Right? So after this candle closes through the breaker block, now this becomes a breaker block. Two different concepts there. No, I do not mix the time frame alignments. So daily for bias, hourly for market structure, 5-minute for entry functions. Or you use the 4-hour for bias, 15-minute for market structure, 1 minute for entry functions. I do not mix those two time frame alignments. You do not need a close below the breaker block for it to be a valid breaker block. The difference would be the strength of the breaker block. If you do not get a close below the breaker block, that looks weak and lethargic. If you do get a close below the breaker block, that looks stronger and more decisive. So me personally, I always wait for the close below the breaker block. That is, I wonder why it's ugly price action. Dixie is doing a whole lot of nothing. Just going sideways. So we do live streams every single week. For anybody that's new here, sub to the channel, like the video. That way you can be notified of any of the upcoming live streams. We do live streams every Wednesday at New York Open. We do educational videos on Tuesdays as well. For anybody that's looking for more direct communication with me, the links to the Discord are in the description of this video. I am going to begin to wrap up the stream. We have been on here for over an hour now, and the next high impact news is at 2 p.m. for the FOMC statement. So I will be waiting until then. It looks like it's just going to be low, lethargic, choppy action until then. I greatly appreciate everyone being here. Turn the notifications on. That way you can be aware of the next live stream. If you have any questions, or if I did not get to your question, bring that question to the Discord, as that's where I'm going to go next. I greatly appreciate all of your time, and I will see you guys in the Discord.